They yelled at him like he was nothing. What they didn't know was that they were the ones being watched. The next day, the whole company shook because the delivery guy was their new regional director. The main lobby of Global Transit Solutions was more than just a workspace. It was a statement, standing tall amidst the bustling financial district of downtown Ho Chi Minh City. The headquarters of this high-end logistics company was a modern architectural marvel, with vast glass panels reflecting the cerulean sky and the city's ceaseless rhythm. Inside, the atmosphere hummed with an almost meticulous professionalism. Polished marble floors gleamed under soft and recessed LED lighting that accentuated contemporary art pieces, and the central air conditioning hummed, dispelling the city's characteristic humid heat. This was a place where multi-million-dollar shipping deals were sealed, where priceless cargo was coordinated for global transit, and where every employee was meticulously selected to align with the corporation's upscale image. Within this gleaming, calculating environment, there was a man named Min. Min wasn't a director nor a department head, but he was a quintessential employee of Global Transit Solutions, a true warrior of the coordination department. Min, in his late 20s, always presented himself with impeccable precision, a finely tailored suit, a luxurious silk tie, and perfectly coiffed hair, not a single strand out of place. The Swiss watch on his wrist glittered under the lights, a silent symbol of the success and status he relentlessly pursued. Min moved through the lobby with an air of confidence, bordering on arrogance. He believed he possessed an innate ability to read people within seconds of observation. For Min, everyone in the office was neatly categorized who held power, who needed to be appeased, who was a vital partner, and who were merely outsiders, not worth his consideration. He held a particular disdain for those with an ordinary appearance, those who didn't project the aura of success. To Min, such individuals were simply time wasters. He maintained a breakneck pace of work, a subtle impatience that seemed to communicate, "My time is precious, don't squander it." And it was precisely into this hierarchical environment that, on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday morning, a peculiar man walked in. He wore a faded, well-worn t-shirt, scuffed jeans, and sneakers that had seen better days. In his hand, he carried a small package, crudely wrapped in newspaper. His appearance was utterly unremarkable, even somewhat nondescript, making him look exactly like an average delivery man, completely out of place amidst the sophisticated and polished ambiance of Global Transit Solutions. He showed no sign of hurry, moving at a slow, leisurely pace, as if strolling through a park rather than being in a place where every second was monetized. The moment he entered, the receptionist, a young woman with impeccably styled blonde hair and a meticulously ironed uniform, frowned. She was young, attractive, and deeply invested in appearances herself. In her eyes, he was an unwelcome contrast to the perfection of the company lobby. She didn't even bother to ask his name, merely glanced at the package in his hand and retorted curtly, her voice cold and tinged with clear disdain. "Just leave it there. Who's it for?" Her question wasn't an offer of help, but a command, a rude delegation of responsibility. From nearby cubicles, the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of keyboards slowed. Several other employees looked up, their eyes filled with scrutiny and curiosity, mixed with clear judgment. Whispers began to ripple through the office like a small wave, loud enough for the man to hear. "Another late delivery," one female employee murmured to a colleague, her voice laced with irritation. "Look at him, so rustic. And he's a delivery guy. Must have the wrong company," another commented, their condescending remarks echoing through the office space like invisible arrows aimed directly at the man. They felt no compunction in showing their disrespect, for in their perception, he was merely a delivery man unworthy of their consideration. But the man was different. He uttered not a single word in response to the rude remarks or scrutinizing gazes. His face remained calm, even holding a faint smile, a gentle smile that held something inexplicable, a glint of subtle amusement in his eyes that no one seemed to notice. He placed the package on the receptionist's desk as she instructed, without a hint of complaint or hesitation. Then, he quietly stepped back a little, not rushing to leave like other couriers. Instead, he stood there, slowly observing the demeanor of everyone around him for a few minutes. His gaze swept over the receptionist, who was now preoccupied with her phone, no longer paying him any attention. He watched the whispering employees, those who deliberately acted busy to avoid engaging with him. He scanned the entire bustling office space, from the framed awards on the walls to the ergonomic chairs. There was an unusual composure emanating from him, an unhurried confidence, utterly unconcerned by the judgments swirling around him. He was like an audience member watching a play in which he was the central character, with a quiet anticipation and a deep, unspoken implication. His plain attire and silent presence created a striking contrast with the cacophony of whispers, hinting that he was more than just an ordinary delivery man. He was a riddle, an unknown variable in the perfectly crafted equation of global transit solutions. Sure, here is an expanded version of Part 2 of the story, written in English and designed to flow seamlessly. The faint echo of the receptionist's curt dismissal still hung in the air, a silent testament to the ingrained dismissiveness that permeated global transit solutions. The delivery man, however, remained outwardly unperturbed. His gentle smile, a quiet ripple on the surface of his otherwise unreadable expression, never faltered. He didn't retort, didn't show a flicker of indignation. Instead, he simply allowed his gaze to continue its silent journey across the bustling lobby, absorbing every detail, every nuanced interaction. He was an anthropologist observing a peculiar tribe, charting their customs and social hierarchy, all without uttering a single word of judgment. His prolonged presence, however, began to grate on the nerves of some. His unassuming stillness, so out of place in a culture that valued ceaseless, purposeful motion, became an irritant. It was as if his very lack of ostentation was an affront to their carefully curated image of bustling importance. And then, the inevitable happened. From a cluster of cubicles near the back, a sharp, authoritative voice cut through the ambient hum. "Hey, you said," it boomed, carrying across the marble floor. Mark, a middle manager in his early 30s with gelled hair slicked back so tightly it seemed to pull his face taut, strode forward. He was holding his phone to his ear, but his gaze was fixed on the delivery man, his expression a mask of impatience and thinly veiled disdain. Mark was a product of the company's aggressive, results-driven culture. He had climbed the ranks quickly, primarily by being loud, demanding, and utterly dismissive of anyone he deemed beneath him. "Finished your delivery," Mark barked, not bothering to lower his voice or even wait for a response. His tone was not a question but an accusation, implying inefficiency or, worse, idleness. "Move along. Don't just stand there looking around. Are you trying to steal something?" The insinuation hung heavy in the air, nakedly offensive, clearly audible to anyone within earshot. A few heads turned, some faces registered a fleeting flicker of discomfort, but no one intervened. No one spoke up. The unspoken hierarchy held firm a delivery man was fair game for such verbal abuse, especially from someone like Mark. The silence from the other employees was as damning as Mark's words, a tacit endorsement of his contempt. The delivery man merely met Mark's gaze. His smile remained, a perplexing, almost serene counterpoint to Mark's aggressive posturing. He didn't flinch, didn't argue. He simply maintained eye contact for a moment, a quiet acknowledgement of the words, but not their intent. It was a silence that spoke volumes, a powerful, unspoken refusal to engage on Mark's terms. Then, with a subtle nod, he turned and, guided by the receptionist's earlier indifferent gesture, walked towards the administrative office to complete the delivery sign-off. His steps were unhurried, almost deliberate, as if to underscore his unshakable calm. Entering the administrative office, the air of dismissiveness thickened. Here, the hum of efficiency was replaced by the rustle of papers and the clatter of keyboards. He approached a middle-aged administrative assistant, Ms. Evelyn Chen, who was buried behind a towering stack of documents. Her perpetually frazzled expression seemed to intensify upon seeing him. Without even looking up, She impatiently waved a hand in his general direction, indicating a chaotic pile of delivery slips. "Just leave it there," she snapped, her voice raspy from what sounded like years of yelling at couriers. "Just sign anything." She added, her words a clear instruction to bypass proper procedure, a reflection of her complete disregard for the task, and, by extension, the person performing it. Her tone was imperious, condescending, as if addressing a servant rather than a visitor, let alone someone representing a third-party service. She clearly saw him as an interruption, an insignificant cog in her overburdened day. The administrative office, much like the lobby, seemed to be a microcosm of Global Transit Solutions' internal culture. Efficiency was prized, but often at the expense of courtesy. The pressure to perform, to meet deadlines, created an environment where empathy was a luxury few could afford, or perhaps bothered to cultivate. The delivery man's quiet presence was an unwelcome disturbance in this meticulously organized chaos. He stood patiently, holding out his delivery forms, waiting for her to acknowledge him properly. The silence stretched, punctuated only by Ms. Chen's aggressive keyboard clacking. He could hear other conversations around the office, complaints about slow internet, gossip about a new project, jokes that subtly mocked absent colleagues. The general atmosphere was one of detached self-interest, punctuated by bursts of frustration directed outwards. Then, a small, clear voice cut through the din. "Yes, I'll sign for you, sir." From a nearby desk, a young intern, Lena, had looked up. She was new, still fresh-faced and eager, her idealism not yet jaded by the cutthroat corporate world. Her eyes, wide and earnest, registered the scene unfolding. Ms. Chen's dismissive attitude, the delivery man's quiet endurance. A flush of embarrassment rose on Lena's cheeks, a silent apology for her colleague's rudeness. She quickly pushed her chair back, stood up, and approached the delivery man with a politeness that felt almost revolutionary in this environment. Her movements were swift, yet respectful. "I'm so sorry about that," Lena murmured, her voice barely a whisper, meant only for his ears, as she took the stack of delivery slips from his hand. She didn't just grab them, she received them with a small, deferential gesture. She carefully reviewed each form, checking details, dates, and package contents with a diligence that belied her junior position. Her brow furrowed in concentration, and only when she was completely satisfied did she sign her name neatly, dating each slip meticulously. Her actions spoke volumes about her character, a stark contrast to the casual disregard shown by others. It was a rare, genuine display of professional courtesy and human empathy. The delivery man's gaze softened as he looked at Lena. His enigmatic smile deepened, a clear sign of appreciation. He didn't offer a lengthy explanation or a lecture. He simply gave her a quiet, affirming nod of thanks. "Thank you," he said, his voice a low, pleasant rumble, the first words he had spoken since entering the company. It was a simple phrase, yet it carried a sincerity that resonated in the otherwise dismissive air. Lena's face brightened, pleased by his acknowledgement. She felt a warmth spread through her, a small victory in a day filled with petty annoyances. With the delivery signed for, the man turned to leave. His steps were as unhurried and composed as when he arrived. He didn't linger, didn't seek further interaction. He simply walked out of the administrative office, his back straight, his shoulders unburdened by the weight of the contempt he had just experienced. He left the building in his own silence, carrying nothing but the memory of the company's reception, its administrative processes, and the stark contrast between its employees. He left behind an office still permeated with casual disdain, and a lone intern whose small act of kindness had shone like a beacon in the prevailing gloom. Little did anyone know, the true purpose of his visit had just been fulfilled, and the invisible test had concluded. The following morning dawned like any other at Global Transit Solutions. The high-tech office building, a monument to corporate ambition, bustled with its usual symphony of productivity. The clatter of keyboards, the low hum of servers, the distant murmur of hushed phone calls all blended into the familiar soundtrack of a successful enterprise. Employees, impeccably dressed and radiating a crisp efficiency, flowed through the corridors, carrying sleek laptops and overflowing coffee mugs. Most were engrossed in their tasks, their faces illuminated by the glow of computer screens, their minds fixated on targets, deadlines, and the endless pursuit of logistical perfection. The brief, almost non-existent interaction with the delivery man yesterday had already faded into the background noise of their demanding professional lives. He was, to them, utterly insignificant, a forgotten ghost in the machine. Min, the ambitious middle manager, was particularly engrossed. He was meticulously reviewing an intricate spreadsheet detailing quarterly freight volumes, already mentally calculating his potential bonus. The brief, irritating encounter with the rustic delivery man had been immediately filed away as an inconsequential annoyance beneath his notice. He felt a surge of satisfaction. His career trajectory was on an upward curve. Thanks to his relentless drive and sharp business acumen, he had no time for trivialities, no patience for anything that didn't directly contribute to his advancement. The receptionist, still basking in her self-assured professionalism, was meticulously arranging fresh flowers on her pristine desk, humming a popular tune. She'd already dismissed the unpleasant memory of yesterday's unkempt visitor, her focus firmly on maintaining the polished image of global transit solutions. After all, her job was to filter, to present the perfect facade, and in her mind, that man had simply not fit the picture. Suddenly, an unmistakable sound rippled through the office. It was the simultaneous ping of hundreds of email notifications arriving in unison. A cascade of light washed over the countless computer screens as the new message populated everyone's inbox. The uniformity of the alert suggested it wasn't a personal message, but something addressed to the entire company. A collective sigh, a few disgruntled murmurs about another all-staff memo, swept through the departments. Employees paused their work, some with a weary sigh, others with mild curiosity, and clicked open the email. The subject line, stark and immediate, made many squint, then double-take. Thank you for your assistance during yesterday's internal survey visit. A ripple of confusion, then a faint buzz began to spread. Internal survey visit. Most hadn't been aware of any official survey. Had they missed a memo? Had a team from another department been here? People exchanged puzzled glances, trying to recall any unusual visitors from the previous day. But it was the sender's name, positioned clearly and unequivocally below the subject line, that caused the first true tremor of apprehension to run through the office. Mr. Thomas Reed, Regional Director, Corporate Oversight Division. Silence descended, swift and absolute, like a sudden drop in atmospheric pressure. The gentle hum of the office seemed to flatline. Hundreds of eyes, previously scanning the email with mild interest, now fixated on those three words, Thomas Reed. The name resonated with immense power within the corporate hierarchy. Mr. Reed wasn't just a director, he was a titan, a formidable figure known for his incisive intellect, his no-nonsense approach, and his unwavering commitment to corporate integrity. He wielded immense influence, capable of making or breaking careers with a single evaluation. His division, Corporate Oversight, was notoriously meticulous, responsible for auditing, reviewing, and ultimately ensuring the operational health and ethical conduct of every branch in the region. A visit from Mr. Reed, even for a survey, was never a casual affair. A cold dread began to creep up Min's spine. His fingers, moments ago confidently navigating spreadsheets, now hovered stiffly over his keyboard. A survey visit. Yesterday, his mind raced, frantically trying to recall anyone who fit the description of such a high-ranking official. He racked his brain, picturing all the impeccably dressed executives, the suited and booted consultants he had encountered. No one fit the bill. Then, a flicker, a memory, fleeting but persistent, began to surface. A simple t-shirt, worn jeans, that quiet, almost enigmatic smile. His eyes widened in sudden horrifying recognition. He saw it all in a flash, the faded shirt, the unassuming package, the quiet presence at the reception, the deliberate steps towards the admin office. No, it couldn't be. It was impossible. But the image, once dismissed as irrelevant, now burned with terrifying clarity across the room. The receptionist, who had been humming moments before, now sat frozen, her face drained of all color, her perfectly made-up features contorted into an expression of sheer horror as her own memory clicked into place. The rude tone, the curt dismissal, the unasked questions, it all came rushing back. Her meticulously arranged flowers suddenly seemed to mock her carefully constructed facade. Mark, the middle manager, who had barked at the delivery man with such imperious disdain, visibly gasped. His face went from its usual confident flush to an ashen gray. He felt a sudden dizzying wave of nausea. The casual cruelty of his words, his aggressive posturing, his accusation of theft, each syllable now felt like a hammer blow against his own skull. He clutched his coffee cup so tightly his knuckles turned white, convinced he might drop it. His carefully constructed professional image, his aggressive assent, all seemed to teeter precariously on the brink of collapse. They were not alone in their dawning horror. Throughout the office, similar scenes played out. Some employees simply stared blankly at their screens, their minds refusing to process the seismic shift. Others clamped hands over their mouths, stifling gasps. A few whispered in hushed, terrified tones, confirming the unbelievable truth with their colleagues. It was him, the delivery man. He was Mr. Thomas Reed. The shock was profound, shattering the comfortable illusion they had built around themselves. Their carefully crafted bubble of perceived superiority had just been pricked, deflating spectacularly. The man they had so casually belittled, disrespected, and ignored was not some lowly courier. He was one of the most powerful figures in their entire regional operation, performing an undercover assessment. And then, the final, chilling confirmation in the email, delivered with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel, cutting through any lingering doubt or self-deception. You weren't being watched. You were being evaluated. The meaning was unmistakable, brutal in its clarity. This wasn't a passive observation, it was an active assessment, a test of character under false pretenses. Every interaction, every fleeting glance, every whispered remark, every dismissive gesture, it had all been recorded, absorbed, and evaluated. Their true selves, unvarnished by the awareness of a superior's presence, had been laid bare. The air in the office suddenly became thick, heavy with unspoken dread. The cheerful hum of productivity was replaced by an oppressive silence. The sound of typing died down completely. The whispers ceased. Everyone looked at each other with panicked and fearful eyes, a shared realization of the sword of Damocles now hanging over their heads. They hadn't just been observed, they had been judged. And clearly, the evaluation results were now firmly, irrevocably, in Mr. Thomas Reed's hands, sealed by their own unwitting actions. The stage was set for the inevitable reckoning. The silence that followed Mr. Reed's email was chilling, thick with a palpable dread. It was a silence punctuated only by the occasional nervous cough or the almost imperceptible click of a mouse as employees frantically tried to ascertain the damage. The fear was a living entity, creeping from cubicle to cubicle, settling heavily in the once vibrant atmosphere of global transit solutions. Everyone understood that an email from Mr. Thomas Reed, especially one with such a pointed message, was not merely a formality. It was a prelude to a reckoning. The consequences began to unfold swiftly, a series of calculated decisions that reverberated through the entire company. By the afternoon of the same day, a terse, impersonal internal memo landed in everyone's inbox, confirming their worst fears and sending fresh waves of unease. The first casualty was the receptionist. Her bright, perfectly made-up face from the morning was now pale and streaked with tears. The memo announced her immediate suspension from work. The reason cited was starkly clear: failure to uphold company standards of professionalism and demonstrating a severe lack of respect towards a company visitor, detrimental to Global Transit Solutions' brand image. Her position was the very first point of contact, the public face of the enterprise, and her self-important disdain had irrevocably tarnished that image. Her personal belongings were packed discreetly and quickly, and she was escorted out, her once confident stride replaced by a slumped, defeated shuffle. Her departure served as a stark, visible warning to everyone else the consequences were real, and they were swift. Next came the blow to Mark, the middle manager. He received an official stern warning, a black mark that would follow him throughout his career file. More painfully, for a man driven by financial incentives, was the announcement of a significant cut in his quarterly bonus. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist, it was a direct hit to his ambition, a costly reminder that his petty abuses of authority had tangible financial repercussions. His loud, aggressive demeanor had cost him dearly. The news of Mark's penalty spread like wildfire, adding another layer of tension to the already strained office atmosphere. No one dared to joke or gossip as freely. The casual camaraderie of yesterday had evaporated, replaced by an underlying current of suspicion and guarded glances. Employees began to second-guess their every interaction, every word, every subtle expression, suddenly hyper-aware that their actions could be under scrutiny at any moment. But amidst this crushing weight of fear and regret, a single unexpected ray of light pierced through the gloom. Lena, the young intern who had shown genuine kindness and respect to the delivery man, received a special personalized notification. She was invited for a direct meeting with the company's executive board, a rare and daunting prospect for someone at her entry-level status. Lena approached the meeting with a mixture of nervousness and genuine curiosity. She had simply acted according to her own sense of decency, never expecting any reward. In the boardroom, instead of stern faces and challenging questions, she was met with polite smiles and approving nods. Mr. Thomas Reed himself was there, no longer in faded jeans and a t-shirt, but in a sharp, impeccably tailored suit, his eyes still holding that intelligent, knowing glint. He personally handed her an official commendation letter, praising her exemplary professional conduct, ethical integrity, and demonstrated respect towards all individuals, regardless of perceived status. The letter was a powerful testament to her character, but the commendation wasn't the only reward. She was then informed of an early invitation to a permanent position within Global Transit Solutions, bypassing the usual lengthy internship period and probationary stages. Furthermore, she was offered a full scholarship for advanced professional development training, a clear investment in her future by the company. It was a complete validation of her innate goodness, a powerful statement that kindness and respect, even in a corporate environment often prioritizing ruthless efficiency, would not only be recognized but profoundly rewarded. Lena left the meeting feeling a profound sense of gratitude and humility, her simple act of decency having opened doors she never dreamed possible. Back in the main office, the contrast was stark. While Lena's colleagues were consumed by self-preservation and the gnawing fear of retribution, she was stepping into a brighter future. The episode left an indelible mark on Global Transit Solutions. The era of casual dismissiveness was over. Every interaction now carried an unspoken weight, a new understanding that every person, no matter how they appeared, could hold a key to their own fate. The comfort and ease had been stripped away, leaving behind an acute awareness of judgment and the profound, tangible consequences of disrespect. A week had passed since the seismic shift at Global Transit Solutions. The initial shock had morphed into a lingering apprehension, a quiet tension that settled over every cubicle and conference room. The usual light-hearted banter was replaced by measured conversations, and glances were now furtive, laden with self-consciousness. Everyone still felt the chill of Mr. Reed's survey, and the harsh reality of the suspensions and warnings served as constant, stark reminders. Then, another unexpected event unfolded. It wasn't an email this time, nor a stern memo from HR. Instead, a physical letter, bearing the discreet, elegant insignia of Mr. Thomas Reed's office, arrived. It wasn't addressed to individuals, but to all staff Global Transit Solutions. City name. The fact that it was a handwritten letter, not a typed or digitally signed document, lent it an immediate, profound weight, suggesting a deeply personal and significant message. Employees carefully opened their copies, their fingers tracing the unfamiliar texture of the heavy stationery. The content was remarkably brief, stripped of all corporate jargon or formal pleasantries. It consisted of just 2 powerful sentences, written in clear, deliberate script. You don't treat people with respect because of who they are. You treat people with respect because of who you are. The message resonated deeply, cutting through the lingering fear and defensiveness. It wasn't a further reprimand. It was a profound, almost philosophical statement. It shifted the focus from the identity of the person being respected to the character of the person offering respect. It was a mirror held up to their own souls, asking them to examine their intrinsic values, not just their professional conduct. It implied that true professionalism stemmed not from policies or titles, but from an internal compass of decency and integrity. Lena, the intern whose kindness had set her apart, carefully unfolded her copy of the letter. The words struck a chord deep within her. They perfectly encapsulated the simple principle she had always lived by, a principle that had now elevated her in ways she couldn't have imagined. With a quiet sense of purpose, she walked over to the main office bulletin board, a central hub for company announcements that had, until now, mostly displayed routine memos and outdated notices. She gently removed the thumbtacks from a dusty old memo and, with deliberate precision, pinned Mr. Reed's handwritten letter squarely in the center. It was a silent, powerful act, transforming a mundane notice board into a beacon of a new philosophy. From that day forward, the atmosphere at Global Transit Solutions underwent a profound, lasting transformation. The letter, prominently displayed, became a constant, silent reminder. No longer were there casual dismissals, condescending remarks, or judgmental glances aimed at those in ordinary attire or performing lesser jobs. The delivery personnel, the security guards, the cleaning staff, all were now greeted with genuine smiles and respectful nods. The unconscious bias that had permeated the office was slowly, surely dismantled. People began to see the dignity in every role, the humanity in every interaction, and the company, recognizing the profound impact of this lesson, took it a step further. A new guiding principle, a core tenet of their corporate culture, was formally adopted. It was emblazoned in sleek, modern typography and affixed to the glass doors at the very entrance of Global Transit Solutions, serving as the first thing every visitor and employee saw. Every visitor is a mirror. This principle was not just a platitude, it became a living philosophy. It meant that the way an individual treated anyone who walked through those doors, whether a potential client, a senior executive, a job applicant, or a humble delivery person, was a direct reflection of their own character, their own integrity, and, ultimately, the true values of Global Transit Solutions. The incident with the undercover director became a foundational story, whispered and remembered, ensuring that the costly lesson of contempt would never be forgotten, and that genuine respect would forever be the cornerstone of their success.